What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA show. How's everybody doing? Welcome back. Hope you guys had a great weekend, and I'm very curious to know what everybody's thoughts were on the fight last weekend. In particular, we're going to be starting off the show by talking about Henry Cejudo's fight and his eye poke. I just want to get started pretty close to our start time. Justin will be joining soon, so we're just waiting for him to jump on. But I thought I'd get started and say hello to everybody. It's pretty interesting in terms of all the drama that has unfolded over that main event. And it's crazy because the overall fight card, for the most part, I think got a lot of buzz. People were saying, I mean, there was like 8 finishes out of 9 fights. The prelims were supposed to be amazing. So there was just a lot of buzz about this card in particular. People were very happy with it. And then we had this main event. We had Henry Cejudo come out and take on Song Yadong, which was a really cool fight. And I actually thought it was a pretty good fight for the most part as it was getting going. And then we had just like ended in this really bizarre way. So it is what it is. Hold on, Justin, I'm going to mute you for a second. It ended in a really bizarre way. And I think a lot of people were disappointed. A lot of people were upset. And we're going to talk about it. And I've been waiting to get Justin's opinion and Justin's take in particular on some of these, on a lot of these comments and what people have been saying about the eye poke, because I need to get a fighter's perspective. I feel like people are making assumptions, people are making judgments, people are saying what he should have done, what he could have done, etc. And I think it's in a vacuum. It's in without proper context of what it's really like to go through all these things. So Justin, before we get into the fight, I just want to ask you, you're a week and a half away from this bare knuckle fight. So if you guys don't know, if you guys are new to the show, Justin's got a bare knuckle fight in a week from Friday. How are you feeling? How's training?
Feel great, man. It's a lot better than like I've talked about. This new element. It's like the new fear that I face. When you're fighting MMA, especially me. With 78 MMA fights, like I always know if I get in trouble, the things I can resort to. Going back to wrestling, going back to heavy strikes, attacking with leg kicks and stuff. To think that well, there's less I have to worry about. I don't have to worry about kicks. I don't have to worry about knees. I don't have to worry about elbows. That it should be easier, man. But it's really not because there's new elements that I'm unaware of. And excuse me, it's a little scary. I'm not really sure exactly where my skill set is going to transition into this sport. I know it's going to. I'm just not sure how it's going to yet. So I'm really nervous about that. I'm excited about it. It's always facing my big thing is I love facing fears, man. And like I'm terrified of heights. So for my 20th birthday or 21st birthday, I went skydiving, and this is another new element that I'm facing. Lloyd Mix, he's 3-0 in bare knuckle. He's a tough old school dog. He went to decision with Michael Chandler. He beat Parisio Pitbull, whatever his name is, in Bellator at one point. Like the guy's a dog, man. And as you guys have seen since being cut from the UFC, like I haven't taken any easy fights. Every single guy I've fought since being cut from the UFC is either a UFC vet, a Bellator vet, a PFL vet, or a one championship vet. This will be my first Bellator vet, but I'm feeling great. My cardio is great. I did 10 rounds the other day. I did 10 3-minute rounds. Now my fight is only 2-minute rounds. I did 10 3-minute rounds, blasted through all the rounds, felt great. Hit a spin class this morning, get a little extra sweat going, man. I mean, physically, I feel great. Mentally, it's a roller coaster, man. Like this morning, I feel great. I just feel really confident, and then there's other days that I don't, man. So overall, I'm going to say I'm feeling great, and I'm putting myself in a position to be ready for next weekend.
In terms of, I mean, this must be a common thing that people don't know about, because a lot of fighters probably won't even open up about it. But is that it must be a pretty common thing for most fighters to have a roller coaster of emotions, to have days where you doubt yourself, to have days where you feel super confident. Would you say this is very normal for all fighters?
Yeah, very normal, man. And, it's something that I'm opening up more about. Mads Burnell, a guy that I look up to, one of the best guys in the gym, he opened up to me, I don't know if it was my last fight or the fight before that, just talking about the fear he has. And he's one of the best guys in the gym. His boxing is so good. And, what I mean? It's like when I hear someone like him that I look up to that beats my ass in training talk about his fear and him being scared to fight, man, it really just, it humbled me. And it's like, you know what? We're all afraid. And whether we say it or not, that's the thing. If a fighter says that he's not afraid, he's lying. Because there are days in training to where you get your ass beat. Like Thursday, we have this up and coming amateur. His name's Adrian. He's so freaking good. He's like 17 or 18 years old, and I got him later in my rounds. I was feeling really good, and he's a little bit taller than me. We fight at the same weight class, but he's a couple inches taller than me and a lot more reach. And man, that's like I'll be straight. Like I lost a round to him, and I was just, man, I was so frustrated. It's like, dude, I fought in the UFC, and this kid's an amateur fighter, and he just peppered me with his jab. Every time I'd come in, bang, hit me with the jab. Every time I'd back off, hit me with his jab. And I'm not saying he didn't hurt me or anything, but he definitely won the round, and it was very frustrating to me. And everybody has those days. I mean, there's days that I've been in there, and I beat guys that I shouldn't got beat, and I see the frustration on them, and it was just one of those rounds for me. So it's very common. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. Biggest thing is just keeping yourself present. And when I had my my psychologist, when I was in the UFC, because every fighter gets one. That's the biggest thing, that he always just stay in the present. Don't worry about wins and losses. Don't worry about what could happen. Don't worry about what's going to happen. Worry about what you can control in that moment. And that's what I'm trying to stay focused on right now.
Right on. 100%. I think that's great advice in general for life that we can extract from what you guys go through. All right, we got a bunch of comments, so I just want to highlight some of these. Two Smelly Fingers is back in the mix. And Two Smelly Fingers, I'm going to come to yours last because you're asking the question, and I'll have Justin be able to answer that. Tehran says, what's up, boys? What's up? Western Mass. Western says, Tehran, Fingers, what's up? And Two Smelly Fingers also says, bare knuckle is as close to a street fight as we get, in my opinion. It's probably true. And then also, what up, West? Izzy Slots is back. What's up, Izzy? Thanks for joining again. He said he must have a great coach. I think he's talking about you. And seems like bare knuckle goes to whoever lands that overhand right first. Interesting. Now, I want to go back to Two Smelly Fingers. He asked a question at the beginning, which I want to pass over to you. He says, are you doing any different kind of training for bare knuckle?
Yeah, I'm not really grappling right now. But with that being said, I am wrestling a lot. I wrestle every single day. When I'm wrestling, though, I'm trying to go with guys that are bigger than me and stronger than me. And I'm not necessarily shooting in for takedowns and trying to take guys down, but more like upper body jockeying, like Greco-Roman, where I'm trying to dig underhooks, get a collar tie, really get that upper body. Because in bare knuckle, you can, the rule set, which a lot of people don't understand, and fighters don't understand this either. A lot of times when they go into bare knuckle, they think it's a boxing match with just out gloves. And that is half true. But if you watch, look at Kai Stewart, and Kai Stewart's this young. He's a 145-pound champ. I didn't really care for Kai when I first met him. I thought he was really cocky, really arrogant. But I've got to know him through the years and talked to him. And I think the last time I talked to Kai, no, not the last time, but last time I saw, or one of the last times I saw him, I was like, I didn't like you at first, but you really grew on me. And I'm straight with that. Like I don't need to hide that from him. And he kind of laughed, and because he almost portrays this asshole, but behind the scenes, he's a really good kid, and he's a really high level wrestler at one point, and he's been able to transition his wrestling into bare knuckle. What I mean by that is he's throwing big shots, not necessarily to land big shots because he doesn't finish a lot of fights in bare knuckle, but he's looking to tie up and clinch, fight from his underhook, fight from his overhook, fight from a collar tie. And then he's getting these collar tie positions because as long as you have one hand free in bare knuckle, the referee can go, meaning that I can have an underhook, jockey you around with one as long as I'm punching with the right, or I can hold your head and jockey, or I can go to an overhook, trap your arm and hit you. As long as you have one fist free and you're throwing punches, the referee's not going to break you up. So I've like a lot of my wrestling, I'm trying to do upper body stuff so I can grab onto Lloyd and push him backwards, pull him into me, clinch him if I need to, hold on to him if I need to recover. Like I said, this is just the idea I have in my head after watching bare knuckle. Could it not work when the fight comes? Of course, I've never done it before. So I think that's my biggest fear, is just wondering how, my training and my skill set, my natural skill set is going to transition over to this. And unfortunately, I won't know until I get in there.
Wow.
But as to answer your question, I'm just doing a lot of boxing. Obviously, I'm not kickboxing. I'm just boxing, hitting the mitts a lot, and a lot of sprint work because they're only 2-minute rounds.
It's just so crazy that you're gonna find out in real time, like you're testing out all these hypotheses, and it's like in the middle of a fight. It's so crazy. Okay, we gotta the one other thing I know. Oh, Crossover MMA might be a new follower. We don't recognize this. Is Westy Tehran Fingers? What's up? Maybe you know the whole crew here. So, anyways, welcome to the show. Hope you do subscribe if you do like our show today. I want to get to this Henry Cejudo thing, but Tehran once again throws in a great tidbit of knowledge. Now, this thing I did hear before. Justin, maybe we can get your thoughts on this because I don't know the answer to this as to why this happened. And you might have some hypotheses after that Max Holloway fight. So Tehran says, which this is true. I heard Dan Hooker say this in an interview. The fight with Gaethje has been moved to 3 rounds instead of 5 because Gaethje requested 3 rounds. Now, I could imagine him saying, hey, look, it's not a title shot. It's not even the main event. It's a co-main. Why would he want 5 instead of 3? If he can make the same money in 3 rounds, I could see him just wanting 3 rounds for that, from that perspective. But Justin, do you think is this a sign of anything bad or negative in your opinion? Or is this just, hey, if I'm getting the same money, why not do 3 instead of 5?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it, man. I've been, when I fought Carl Deaton, UFC vet for TWC, they wanted it 5 rounds. I said, I don't want to fight 5 rounds, man. Honestly, I'll be straight, and a lot of guys won't admit this, whether they feel this way or not. But I'll be honest, the quicker I can get in and out of there, the better off. I have done 5-round fights before, going into that 4th round, going into that 5th round, and not getting paid any extra money, taking extra damage. Personally, I don't like to be in there any longer than I have to be. I would much rather fight 3 rounds than 5 rounds. Not to mention, you can step on the gas a little more. You have a little bit more time. You have a little bit more sense of urgency. That hey, shit, I have to win 2 out of 3 instead of 3 out of 5, because it just, I don't know, man. I hate to say like, oh, you don't have to train as hard. You don't have to be in good shape, and that's not necessarily true. I like 3 rounds over 5 because you can be in the same good shape, if you're going 5 rounds, but able to push a little bit harder. It's a lot easier to crank that tempo up for 15 minutes over 25 minutes. Because a lot of times, like when I did I've done a couple 5-round fights, and when I fought Troy Lamson, the first round was essentially just a feel out round, because it's like, all right, going to kind of ease into this because I got 20 more minutes after this round, instead of, oh shit, we got to get ahead on the scorecards right away.
See, that's really good insight. I think a lot of people are wondering, hey, maybe this indicates an issue or a problem with Justin Gaethje's cardio or whatnot, but it very well may not be. This is something that I want to emphasize to people, that we are getting. So, for example, we're going to now transition into Henry Cejudo's fight. And in particular, I want to talk about the eye poke, and I want to talk about it with Justin, because we got a lot of comments to and responses to my video that I made yesterday about the eye poke, saying, hey, some people thought Henry was faking it, or some people think he should have continued. Maybe he should have, maybe he shouldn't have. I said this in the video. Look, what I want to know is, what is standard operating procedure for most fighters? What is it like to get eye poked? Like, I think we need to have a lot more context before we have a meaningful conversation about this. This is why, one of the reasons why I think our channel is so special, is because we have Justin on here, who's been in the fight game for years. He's had 78 professional fights, never pulled out of one fight in his entire career, which is crazy.
78 professional fights, 78 fights total. 50 amateur, 28 pro.
50 amateur, 28 pro, right? Okay, there you go. So 78, but 78 fights still, nonetheless, never pulled out of a single one, which is insane to me. But anyways, so we're going to get into this eye poke discussion. And as I mentioned, I responded to somebody's comments today, and I said, look, if I'm wrong, I'll admit it. Obviously, I was hypothesizing from my vantage point best I could. But anyways, Justin, let's get into this fight. I was pretty disappointed, because I did want to see Henry Cejudo go out there, do his best. I thought he actually looked quite good. I thought he was doing a good job. It did seem as though Song Yadong was picking up the pace and putting it on him in the later rounds. Does that mean Henry still couldn't have come back and won? I don't think so. I think Henry still was in the fight. But anyways, we get to that tragic eye poke. And by the way, I think there was another eye poke earlier, and there was a groin shot. Multiple fouls committed by Song Yadong, intentional or unintentional. I'm not even getting into that right now. Probably unintentional, but still multiple fouls, no point deductions. And then we have a brutal eye poke. First and foremost, I want to turn it over to you. Do you think it was so bad that Henry basically opted out of continuing to fight? Or do you think that's a totally reasonable choice for a fighter to make, suffering such a bad eye poke when he was unable to see out of one of his eyes?
So I'm going to go into really in depth on this. I thought about this. I was able to watch the fight. I was playing poker as I was watching this fight in the background. So I probably didn't watch it as intently as you did, but I did see the eye poke. I did see the groin shots, and I saw a lot of things. And okay, I'm going to tell you my initial thought, and then I'm going to tell you my thought of today. So initially, I saw the tide starting to turn and swing in Song Yadong's favor. Henry Cejudo, I thought, looked great coming out. The fight was very close, but as the fight went on, it looked like Song Yadong was starting to get better of him. So my initial thought when he got eye poked, and I looked at Aaron, I was with my buddy Aaron, and I'm like, he's going to find a way out, because they were getting to that 5-minute mark of, again, I saw the replay of the eye poke. It was a gnarly eye poke. And I just was thinking, like, man, maybe he found himself in a compromising position. He's getting beaten up now, and he's getting tired, and he found his way out. With that being said, this is why I don't think that's the case, because from my understanding, and correct me, because when I was watching it, there's no volume. because I'm watching it in the background in a poker room, so I can't hear what the announcers are saying. I can just see what's happening. Now, so when the fight was stopped, did the referee start the fight for one more second, then stop the fight? Okay, so I didn't know in the time. That I didn't know at the time. That's why I was kind of confused by Song Yadong 1. I don't think that Henry Cejudo was faking it. All right. My initial thought, I thought he was, but here's the thing. If he was faking it, why did he decide to continue for one more second to ensure that Song Yadong won? He loses half of his pay by doing that. All right. You understand? So, and again, I didn't hear volume. I'm watching it in the background, so I don't know what the announcers and everybody was saying. But it's happened in wrestling before. This one time I was wrestling in the state finals against Trevor Tyler, the team state finals. And Trevor had a big mat return. I hit my head, I think I dislocated my shoulder. And my coach made me go back out there and wrestle for one more second, so we didn't get the win. All right? Because he thought that Trevor was beating me, and he was beating me by a point or two, and it just was unfortunate that this incident happened. My coach, being the sportsman he did, saying he didn't feel Trevor did anything wrong, which I didn't think so. I just landed funny that we shouldn't win that way. And Henry, coming from a wrestling background, probably didn't feel good about winning that way. And when I saw pictures this morning of his eye, I think it was legit. A buddy of mine, Darren Cruikshank, in the UFC, got poked in the eye. I can't remember who he was against. I can picture his face. Really tough, old school boxer. Got poked in the eye. Couldn't continue, guys. And now we're to a point, too, that I've talked about in this bare knuckle fight, is there's no reason for Henry Cejudo at the point he is in his career to persevere and show the world how tough he is anymore. He's already been there and done that. He's been a 2-belt champion. That's kind of how I'm looking in this fight. And you know what? You guys can call me pussy. You can guys call me whatever and show up and fight me. But if I find myself and I get my nose crushed in this fight, I'm done. Like, I have nothing else to prove to anybody. I've already fought with a broken nose. I've fought with broken hands. I've fought with broken feet. I've fought with my face caved in. And the reason I did that was because in my head, I have to win to get to where I want to go. I have to win these fights to get to the UFC. I'm never going back to the UFC. I've accepted that. And you know what? You look at someone like Hudson Kettering. You know Hudson Kettering. Yeah. He broke in an amateur fight. This kid is the truth. I don't want to say is or was, but he's in an amateur title fight, 5 rounds. He breaks his hand in the first round. He decides to show how tough he is to go 5 more rounds. Hudson won't ever, and I might. Is his brother named Hudson, or is
Kettering? Hold on, I can look it up, but
They're
I can't.
2 brothers, but I always get them mixed up. It's either Hudson or the other one. He broke his hand in the first round, fought the whole fight, won the fight, and he will never fight again. He cannot. He's had surgery. He's had 15 or 20 surgeries on his hand, and they just can't get it right. So this guy, this upcoming talent that tried to persevere and show everybody how tough he was, won the fight. But essentially won the battle, lost the war. He'll never fight again. And where I'm at, where in my career is, if I break my hand, I have nothing to prove to anybody, man. I don't need to fight a bare knuckle boxing match with a broken hand. I don't need to fight a bare knuckle match with a broken nose. And I think Henry Cejudo probably feels that way too. Is he didn't need to continue this fight. Let's face it, man. I'm a huge Henry Cejudo fan, but he's never going to be a UFC champion again, man. And as much as I hate to say that, because he's an old school wrestler that I just respect so much, and he's just not. He just can't keep up anymore. He's too old. He doesn't even wrestle in his fights anymore, and that's his best attribute. His age is really showing, and the damage he's taken over the years is really showing. So he might have got poked in the eye severely, which I think it was a severe eye poke. And yeah, he sure could fight with one eye, but why? At this point in his career, he's done everything. He's a former 2-belt champion. He has nothing else to prove to anybody, and I'm fine with the way he went out.
I think that gives me perfect context, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, other people have fought through it. Yes, maybe he could have, but he would have gotten pieced up. His depth perception would have been destroyed. He said he couldn't see out of one eye, so he was basically, one eye was completely blurry, and I believe him, and the other eye he could see, so depth perception would have been wrecked. He would have been just a sitting duck. He would have been a sitting duck out there, and I think you're absolutely right. People are treating him with, saying all sorts of negative things about him, and it's like, well, what about all the great things that he's done in the past? What about all the things he pushed himself through to become a 2-division champ? And he got a wrestling gold medal. Yeah, I think what you said makes a lot of sense. I think it's a lot of new fans that just don't want to give him any way out, that no, you got to go and fight to the death. Now, Dana White was super pissed off, and he basically had the same reaction towards Henry as he did towards Arman. He's like, they're like, hey, do you think he could have fought? He's like, I don't know, only he can answer that question. Remember, he said the same thing about Arman, right? So I said that in the video. I'm like, Dana is mad, but I get why Dana is mad, because he has a product that he's trying to push and promote, and that damages the product and the integrity of the product, right? So he wants people to watch that fight and come away being like, holy smokes, that was amazing. They didn't get that. They got an unfortunate stoppage, but there's times when it makes sense, like you said, for a fighter to also their objectives are aligned with the brand and the UFC, and they want to make a great product as well. But then there's times, unfortunately, when you have to make a decision that may not be in the best interest of the UFC. And that's what I think Henry did there. I don't have a problem with it. I don't want to see him out there being a sitting duck. And I think it's unfair that eye pokes are. Dana White said, hey, was it intentional? Because otherwise I don't think a point should be deducted. I just don't get this. And this is where I want to go to next, Justin. I want to get your take on this. I think, right, we have certain laws in our legal system that are strict liability, that it doesn't matter about intent is irrelevant. If the damage is done, if the violation is committed, then you go to jail or you get something on your record. I feel like eye pokes should be a strict liability offense because, first of all, I don't even remember anyone being like, yep, that was clearly intentional. Like, when does that happen? Number one. Number two, the damage is so bad. It's not like a groin strike where you can recover and you're kind of back to normal. If you have a bad eye poke, your vision is probably compromised for the rest of the fight. It's just so unfair. So you get to do this. There's not even a point deduction. And now you're fighting a fighter that could be so severely compromised depending on how much they rely on their depth perception. Justin, what are your thoughts? What's your feeling about? Actually, the first thing I should ask you is, have you ever been eye poked like this?
Oh, yeah, a bunch of times, man. It sucks. If you remember my last fight in May, I can even send you. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
I got eye poked. I went back, and it was like the first 2 minutes of the fight, and Chris Tione was the ref, and he's a personal friend of mine. I kind of was super bummed about his call, because I have a picture of dude throwing an uppercut slow, and it's a picture frame of his thumb right in my eye, and actually I think I can send it to you right now. But unfortunately, I stepped back and I looked at Chris, and I'm sending it to you right now. So in case you want to post it.
Sure.
I sent it to Chris, or I leaned back and I like to ask him to stop the fight just for a second, just so I'm holding my eye and I put my hand out there. My opponent realized that he put a thumb in my eye. He stepped back and he put his hands up like this. And Chris is like, nope, keep fighting, keep fighting, keep fighting. And then I step back, and then he throws the spinning heel kick and kicks me in the head, knocks me out on my right side, the compromised side. Boom, hits me, knocks me out, end of the fight. So, yes, I have been eye poked, and it fucking sucks, man. Especially, I just sent the picture to you.
Yep, I'm putting it up here.
It's the thumb right in the eye there, and that really sucked, especially because, I was hoping – Chris being my buddy, like he'd give me the benefit of the doubt, and I'm not one to shy away from stuff like that. So, I've been eye poked. It fucking sucks.
So here, let me show the picture, and then I want to hear your thoughts just as a policy matter. Yo, this gets crazy, guys. Oh, my God. This is a little blurry. I remember because I was at this fight. This was in Vegas. But, yeah, you see the thumb right there going into Justin's eye. And, and also I remember this fight because – he had you told me you were watching tape on him, and he'd never thrown a spinning heel kick like that. So you didn't even expect it, and then he just threw it, and it landed, and it was that's great. You didn't actually you didn't get knocked out though. You were still in it, but then they waved it off. Like that's why I remember correctly, right? You were like you were still trying. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was I had like thinking back, like I don't remember any of that. Okay. I got hit with the kick. I fall face first. My face hits the mat. When my head hit, I like turn. I don't remember any of that. I fought for like 2 or 3 more minutes. I thought when the referee stopped it, I thought that I just fell down and it was stopped immediately. But it turns out that I fought for like 2 or 3 more minutes. I don't remember any of that. I'll be honest. I was unconscious. Fortunately for fighters, your body will go into it's muscle memory. And, when you like, it's just, I just was fighting and that's the craziest part about fighting in fighters is because, if a civilian gets knocked out, like they don't have their body doesn't know what to do when they're knocked out. They might cover their head and let go in the fetal position. But as a man, as a fighter, I shouldn't say as a man, but as a fighter that's been training for the last 20 years, like for me to turn to my back, try to recover guard, get hand control. It looks like you're saying, like you're watching it. It looks like I know what I'm doing. I stood up back to my feet. I'm fighting hands and I'm throwing punches back, but it was all unconscious. And it was just my brain going into autopilot of, hey, he's not awake right now, but I mean, the lights were on, but no one was home kind of deal. Like it was just, it's like watching that last 2 minutes of the fight was so surreal to me because it's like, I don't remember any of this. And the next thing I remember is my opponent. I can't even remember his name, but he's on his knees, like he's like praising me. And I kind of did the same. It was a very respectful thing.
He loved you. He loved you. He gave you a lot of respect before and after.
He did. I mean, he told me so much respect before. He's a young kid. I just can't keep up with these young kids anymore, man. Before the fight, he's giving me nothing but respect, and vice versa, man. This guy's a 1 championship kickboxer, bro. Like, you know, it's just one of those things. And you know, I just think fighters are we're just a different breed, man. And just to watch, watch me do that. It's like it's essentially watching somebody else fight because I'm not making any decisions right now. I'm not consciously making any decisions. My body is just kind of just moving and reacting.
Guys, you guys have been commenting in the chat so much, and then now Justin tells this crazy story, and nobody's commenting at all. Oh wait, now we got an Izzy Slots comment. What do you guys think about this stuff? This is why the sport is so fascinating. Izzy Slots is back. He goes, I got knocked out with. Oh, Izzy, are you a fighter? I got knocked out with the knee once in a fight and woke up 90 seconds later in a double.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Wait, Izzy, you're a fighter? We didn't know that. Oh snap! Let us know. Like, are you amateur? Are you pro? Where do you fight? That's super cool. Cool. Awesome that we get more fighters. Okay, last thing I just want to go before we go, I want to talk about Muhammad Mokaev next because, again, he did reach out to us and he saw the video that I made about him, and that made my day. That made my week. I love Muhammad Mokaev. He's a legend, dude, and I think he could beat Pantoja for sure, but we'll come back to that. But, dude, do you think eye poke should be strict liability? Meaning, I don't care if it's intentional or not. We're taking a point away. Done. What do you think?
I think that with the way technology and replay is with the UFC right now, I think they need to be reviewed. I think because there are times that guys will get punched and the knuckle or like this knuckle, like you have your knuckle here or this knuckle will go into the eye and guys think that they're eye poked and they'll be like, oh, my eye. And but here's the thing. Now we have to play two sides of that. If I hit you good and this knuckle, this one goes into your eye, is that considered an eye poke? And if it isn't, and you stop the fight to recover, and you get to recover from now, do we deduct a point for you for a false call on an eye poke? And if my like John Jones, like he'll be like, here, if you rush forward and your finger, like it's going to be a discretion call. I think if you're coming forward and the fingers are straight and it goes into the eye, yes, take a point. But we have to look at the other side of the coin, guys faking eye pokes. And I know that does happen. I've seen it happen where guys will, again, get hit in their eyeball and they will think it's an eye poke. So, again, if they wave it off and the referee stops it and they review it, should we take a point away from that guy as well?
Oh, boy. Okay, so it's a much murkier situation.
Yeah, it's murkier because, again, I could get punched in the eye and be like, oh, I got poked in the eye. Now we stop. We get a break. It takes them a minute to review. My brain can recover in that minute. Now I'm back to feeling good when I'm actually hurt, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, so that's really tricky.
Should the perpetrator, should he be punished the point if he makes a false claim?
That's a good point. I don't know. More complicated than I thought, I suppose. Fair enough. Well, we will revisit this topic later. I've definitely heard a lot of people weigh in. Michael Bisping is one of the folks, obviously, because he lost his eye due to a really bad eye poke that led to a detached retina, and he eventually. Maybe it was a shot to I don't remember if it was an eye poke per se, but he was very much on the side of, these need to be penalized. There needs to be point deductions de facto. And I thought that made a lot of sense, but we'll have to revisit this. Maybe we'll think about it a little bit more and make a video at some point in the future. Let's move on to Muhammad Mokaev. There's so much to go through today. And I have a doctor's appointment at 2:30. So we're going to have to speed through some of these topics. But first of all, Muhammad Mokaev just did an interview on the Ariel Helwani show, and he talked about how he wants, man, you listen to that interview, guys, listen to it if you haven't had a chance to yet. I think you'll have a different perspective on Muhammad Mokaev if you're not a fan of him. If you're a fan of him already, you'll enjoy it, but it's a really cool interview. And he just seems so down and so bummed out about the fact that he got cut from the UFC. Even though he's making more money right now, he doesn't care. He wants to get back in the UFC. He's 24. He's so young, and he wants to get in there and show that he's the best in the world. And I think he is. And I think he beats Pantoja, and I think he's a great fighter. Also, incredibly, one of the criticisms that he apparently got from the UFC brass is that his fighting style is not exciting enough. Guess what he's doing right now? He's in Thailand right now, training Muay Thai, trying to improve his striking skills so he can be a more exciting showman in the UFC, which is a little bit like I get a little irked when the UFC is like, yo, you need to change your fighting style to be more exciting. It's like, dude, his fighting style is dominant. He's undefeated and he got cut. So I'm like, what are you doing here? You're changing somebody that's winning. I don't know. Anyways, but I respect the fact from Mokaev's perspective that he said, hey, I want to be a better fighter, a better entertainer. So I'm going to work on my craft and skill and get even better despite the fact that he's undefeated. But Justin, let me turn it over to you first. What do you think? Is this dangerous from the perspective of the UFC as a brand to be potentially cutting somebody for myriad reasons, right? They're claiming he was difficult to work with. Maybe his fighting style wasn't the most exciting. They're cutting somebody that very well and arguably is the best in that division. Is this dangerous for the brand? Because I've had people in the comment section argue with me and say, no, this is all entertainment. So they just want to put on exciting fights. I disagree. I think there has to be a balance. What's your thoughts?
Listen, most UFC fans don't know anything about fighting. Look at the way they talk to the fighters. Look at the comments they make. Look at how they talk on social media. I'm going to say 95% of UFC fans don't know anything about fighting. They think it's a street fight. They might know what guard is. They might know what mount is. But at the end of the day, most fans are idiots. And I'll say that because of the messages I've received, from the messages other people have received. Most MMA fans are idiots and they don't know anything of what they're talking about. So
not our boys on the chat though. Not these guys that come regularly. These guys are different. But yeah,
I'm not talking about our community. We have a great community. I just mean MMA fans in general. Like when I was in the UFC, guys, like you should, I wish I would have saved some of these messages of guys be like, oh, you were a college wrestler. Like, why didn't you just do this? And I look at my buddy Aaron, who thinks he's the smartest guy. Aaron's the smartest guy he's ever met. And as we're watching this Henry Cejudo fight, he's like, oh, Henry was a world-class wrestler. Why doesn't he just take him down? It's that easy. It's that easy. All he has to do is just get in there and take him down. It's like, you're a freaking idiot, bro. Like you say you're the smartest guy in the world, and it's not. And check this out. I looked at Aaron across from the table. I'm like, Aaron, it's not that easy. He looks at me and goes, oh, yes, it is. And I'm just like, what? Wait, what? Like, who are you, bro? Like, you've never done any sport in your life. You might have played pee-wee football, like high school football, maybe. You've never done a one-on-one sport, and you're gonna tell me 78 fights, 4 years of collegiate wrestling, boxing matches, like that what is easy and what is not. Let me tell you, just because Henry, like, it's very hard, it's very intimidating to use wrestling in MMA because knees are there, elbows are there, kicks are there, range is there, especially like Henry Cejudo, who's short and compact. Like getting into that range, it's very, very tough. So the UFC isn't trying to appeal to me, isn't trying to appeal to you who has knowledge. I mean, being on this podcast, I think you are not in that 5%. Obviously, you are open-minded and you don't have, like, when we talk about wrestling, you're very open-minded to it because you don't know anything. No offense,
yeah,
you don't know that much about wrestling.
It's true.
So you're open-minded to what I have to say. You don't ever say, Justin, why don't you just take guys down? It's easy. And I'd be like, Huzaifa, no, you're an idiot. But you have to understand, 95% of fans feel this way. So why? Now think from a business standpoint. Why appeal to the 5% of fans that understand the wrestling and the grappling? They want to see that. Or the 95%, is it easier to appeal to the 95% that just want to see guys stand up and knock each other out? Because even me as a fan of MMA, regardless of all my experience, I don't want to watch guys get in there and wrestle. I don't want to watch guys get in there and grapple. I want to see guys go toe-to-toe and knock each other out. And, and I know, again, this is entertainment. Wrestling isn't entertaining to me. When I'm actually, that's not true. Division I wrestling, when I'm commentating, that's super entertaining, man. High level guys scrambling nonstop. But again, it's a 7-minute match. So these guys' output for 7 minutes is insane. When you're talking about a 15-minute fight, 25-minute fight, you can't have that output. That's why wrestling in college is only 7-minute matches. In high school, it's 6 minutes because you have to have such high output and be in such good shape. Now, again, talking about that casual fan, most fans don't understand wrestling, and even less fans understand grappling. So why pitch wrestlers and grapplers when 95% of the fan base that is paying to buy the pay-per-views doesn't know anything about it anyways?
Okay, well, that's
a couple girls. I'm sorry, I keep going on, but 2 girls that I had dated in the past, they thought, before dating me, like, they thought MMA was a street fight. They thought it was just, Huzefa, Justin, all right, go. They didn't realize how much footwork is involved, and like then I've done mitt sessions and how to move your feet and how to balance position. They thought it was just 2 guys coming in to find out who's the tougher guy. That's not any way, shape, or form correct. And it's not that they're stupid or anything. They just don't know, and 95% of people don't understand.
Yeah, and I think that's a good clarification too. Like, we're kind of saying it in just, hey, fans are this way and that way, but obviously it's actually not an intelligence thing whatsoever. It's more about it. I think what it comes down to, and this is what I try and be careful of, and I've crossed the line, I'm sure, myself, is recognizing what you know and what you don't know. It's that Kruger, I think it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect or something. It's like the less you know about something, sometimes people think they're more of an expert, and then the more they learn, they realize they're less and less of an expert, kind of thing. And I think we see that a lot in sports and fandom. You always hear people saying, oh, the coach shouldn't have done that. He should have called this play. He's an idiot, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, you haven't been in there and you haven't, you know what I mean? There's probably so many nuances and whatnot that people can't even understand when they're just looking at it from a fan's perspective. So I think that's really what it comes down to. But I must say, the person who commented in my comments about my Mokaev video, who talked about it being entertainment, you're basically agreeing with them. So maybe I am wrong in my take that I feel that it could damage the brand of the UFC. Maybe most people just don't care, and I'm in the minority there. But anyways, interesting perspective. Do you think, I just want to end on this and then we'll move on. Do you think that Mokaev, if he goes out there, if he really makes the right relationships, given how talented and how great he is, works on his Muay Thai, all this stuff, and he's undefeated, do you think, despite the fact maybe he's rubbed Dana the wrong way, that they'll give him another chance at some point down the road since he's so young?
Absolutely. Now, if he was 35 years old, no. But at 24 years old, he is going to mature so much in the next couple of years. I mean, when I was 24 years old, man, I don't even want to talk about the stuff I was talking about or doing, and now I look back and that's silly stuff. And I'm sure, he's going to look back, realize the mistakes he's made. He's going to mature as a fighter, mature as a person. He goes out, gets a couple big knockouts. I mean, especially now going into Thailand. Now we talk about stepping out of your comfort zone, man. I think that's something that I did exceptionally coming up in MMA. It's like early in my career, I just would wrestle. And then I started getting with Kara Rowe and boxing and James Lee and Darren Cruikshank and working on my striking. And I dedicated to boxing, for the last 15 years. And, that's all I like to do in fights. And that's where I think this bare knuckle thing. So to answer your question, anything is possible with the UFC, man. I mean, being 24 years old, Dana White might retire as the president in the next 5 years, and even say it's the next 5 years. He's only 29 then. And now we get somebody new to come in and be like, all right, let's give this kid another shot. And he has 6 years really before 5-6 years before he's in his prime. Anything's possible, man. And especially in this sport, he crosses the right bridge at the right time. You might just find himself in a situation where they need him.
Man, if he has to wait 5 years, I'll be so bummed. Let's get him back in there. Let's hope he gets back in there in the next year. I pray. I'm going to just highlight a couple comments and then we're going to move on. Who's your daddy? 304 might be somebody new on the stream. It says Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Very true. Western does say, hey, we're all geniuses here. Very true. And then we got Izzy Slots once again with the great comments. There's too many fighters out there that are easy to work with. There are great company men for the UFC to bother with. So here, I get what you're saying. He's talking about Mokaev being difficult to work with, or these claims or assertions. And Mokaev has come out and said, look, the truth might lie somewhere in the middle. He said, I have not mistreated the UFC staff, and I'd be a fool to do so because they make my meals. They conduct the weigh-ins, and they could really make problems for me. So that's not the case. Now, maybe there's something in between. Maybe there have been some people that he has maybe spoken poorly to or something. But again, even if that's the case, as Justin said, he's young and he can learn from this. And I think he even said in the aerial interview, he's like, maybe the UFC is trying to teach me a lesson. I think he's learned from it. I think he's going back. He's working on his Muay Thai. He's trying to be a better person. He's only talking glowingly about the UFC. I think it's got to go a long way. And plus, dude, that talent it's unrivaled. No, who's undefeated in the flyweight division. He's interesting. He's young. I think he is a unicorn in the sport. I think he needs to come back. I think he will come back. Let's see what happens. Fingers crossed for Muhammad Mokaev. Okay, moving on before we wrap up today. Diego Lopes, I know you made a video and we're going to release that shortly. But Justin, can you give us your thoughts on this matchup and how you see this fight going?
Again, we got to talk about the motivation. What's Volk's? What is his goals? You know what I mean? Does he want to become the champ again? Is he fighting for a paycheck? And here's the thing. We have to read in between the lines, man. He's lost 3 fights in a row now. He's been brutally knocked out twice. Like, is he going to be the same fighter coming back against a very hungry, a very determined Diego Lopes, who has looked phenomenal? You know, and of course, if we're talking about 2 guys fighting at their best, I mean, of course, Alexander Volkanovski, arguably one of the greatest top 5 greatest featherweights of all time, but coming back from 2 brutal knockouts, man. And you have Diego Lopes on the other hand, who hasn't been knocked out, at least recently, hasn't lost in a fight recently, hasn't taken the damage recently. You know, I'm taking Diego Lopes in this, man, and I'm a huge Volkanovski fan. I think he's incredible, and I like him on the mic, off the mic. I like him when he fights. I like his person. I like everything about this guy. I wish I had one bad thing to say about him, but you know, if we're gonna be honest, I want Volkanovski to win just to show, you know, just for the old dogs, man. Being an old dog. You know, I've lost so much money betting on the old dog in these situations. It's like, because I mean, in my head, I want him to win, man. I want him to win. I want him to get that championship back. And I want him to be the champ again. It's so impressive to me when someone like George St. Pierre can win the championship, get knocked out by Matt Serra, come back, and then go on this incredible reign, then retire, then come out of retirement, go up to middleweight, win another championship. And that's what really dictates to me the greatest of all time. Facing adversity, and now he's faced a lot of adversity. He's been knocked out twice brutally in a row. If he can come back and beat Diego Lopes and secure himself as the featherweight champion, Alexander Volkanovski will be one of the baddest featherweights of all time. I mean, he already is, but what a staple to lose everything, and then come back and get it all back in one fight. I think it's an incredible opportunity, but can he be mentally strong enough to persevere through these things? Time will tell.
Man, you know, when you put it that way, because I'm pulling for Volkanovski as well, and I think it'd be a great story. I know other people aren't as excited. Some people, I've heard some YouTubers saying they're not so excited for this matchup. I'm more excited for this than Volkanovski rematching Ilia Topuria. This is very interesting to me. I like getting in the new face of Diego Lopes, who's such an exciting fighter, and I like Volkanovski getting another chance at reclaiming that throne, because I think it would be a really cool story to go out on top. But when you mention it that way, when you talk about the hunger, the age, it kind of reminds me of Song Yadong versus Henry Cejudo, or some of these recent matchups that we've seen. And that does worry me a little bit. At first, I don't know which way I'm leaning, actually. I need to think about it a little bit more. I want to listen to some more Volkanovski interviews. I'm going to rewatch that last fight against Ilia Topuria and think about it a little bit more carefully. But you're right. Diego is going to probably come in with the hottest fire underneath him, just ready to go and just tear him to shreds. So I don't know. But regardless, it's going to be a great fight. You're going Diego Lopes. I'm going to wait a little bit before I figure out which way I'm leaning.
Volkanovski, and guys, listen, I want Volkanovski to win. Let's get that straight. So I am going to put money on Diego Lopes, because I'm such a bad sports bettor that if I put money on Diego Lopes and I lose, it's a win. If I put money on Diego Lopes and he wins, it's a win. So guys, I am a huge Volkanovski fan. He's one of my favorite fighters, especially in the featherweight division. And you know what? Also here, when you're watching these interviews, I know you have to go in a second, so I'm trying to speed. That's why I'm talking fast. But listen to him. He's gonna say if he goes with that traditional, it's been the best fight camp we've ever had. I'm more motivated now than ever. These are all stereotype sayings that we say to try to convince ourselves that it is, because you know, that's what I'm going to say. That's what I've said in fight. Oh, man, best fight camp ever. I feel better than I ever have. I'm more focused than I ever have been. And then you get in there and it's like, oh, shit, maybe I'm not, or maybe I wasn't. So when you're watching his interviews, pick up on these cues. If he's talking about persevering through a tough fight camp, that says a lot more to me than if he comes out and says, oh, best fight camp I've ever had, which I expect he's going to do.
Okay, very interesting. So we will do that. I will be watching all those interviews. Thank you guys so much for joining. Again, we had a great show today. Thank you for all the comments and the participation of everybody in the chat. We really appreciate it. And again, Justin and I know people said last time they'd love to see a Wednesday show. Justin, that's something me and you have to talk about online. I don't know, offline, excuse me. I don't know if you have the capacity for throwing in a third show.
I always do.
Okay, so this might be something. And guys, let us know too in the live chat and also in the comments as well. I'll put up a post on our YouTube channel, just so we can get a little survey. Hey, do people want a third show or not during the week? We'd love to do it if you guys would love for it. So keep us posted. Once again, thank you guys so much for joining. We really appreciate it. We're having so much fun, and we will see you in the next episode. Take it easy.